Wow, what a performance by the New Orleans Pelicans in game number 4. We're going to be jumping into another special edition of Making Picks with the Pelicans taking on the Suns for game number 5. For this episode of Making Picks, we got a special prize that we're giving away. We're also going to be joined by JP Compton, who is a lead contributor for the LA Peach Basket. Great basketball site. And let's have a little fun. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Making Picks. Let's go. All right, we're back with another episode of Making Picks. As promised, I got JP Compton in the room already. We're geared up and we're ready to go here. As I stated, big contributor to the LA Peach Basket. Obviously, Jose is a friend of the program. You've seen him on Making Picks before. And I really thought it was important to bring JP into this episode here because there's some crazy stuff taking place from an NBA perspective. Now, JP, I'll just kind of throw it at you because I'm really interested to get your take and your thoughts. But after all, I mean, you guys made your way into a play-in game. You finished the season 10 games under 500, and now you're at the very least taking the number 1 seed in the NBA playoffs, very least to a game 6 here. Now, I understand that there's a big injury taking place from a Suns perspective here. But first off, how's everything going? And what do you got going on? Anything special?
Hey man, I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing really, really well after last night's win. I'll tell you that for sure. I think it's interesting to talk about the Pelicans as a whole. Before I kind of have started to judge the season on 2 different perspectives. I think you look at the season before the All-Star break, before the trade deadline, and you look at the season after the trade deadline, right? So trade deadline is really when they acquired CJ McCollum and have done a lot of those things. And, on Pelicans Twitter, there's a video circulating around right now that just shows, everybody calling, David Griffin, the Pelicans GM, a terrible GM. There's all saying that, Kendrick Perkins saying that the Pelicans need to be moved from New Orleans to Seattle. And there's all these other, videos of people just saying how bad the Pelicans were. And I don't think they're wrong. I mean, I don't think you start off winning 1 out of your first, 13 games and consider yourself a good basketball team in a lot of different ways. But another big loss for the Pelicans this year was obviously Zion. And then Brandon Ingram missed a lot of games this year due to a couple of, an ankle injury here, a hamstring injury there. He's missed a lot of games. That's contributed to the poor Pelicans season before the trade deadline. After getting CJ McCollum and some of those other different things, I think it's very evident that this team was a sleeping giant. And, you said
sleeping giant.
Right.
We're putting that label on. So you
Right.
that's a really good point that you've actually made, that there's a big difference between the Pelicans pre-trade deadline and where they're at right now. So even second half of the season, you're starting to see some cohesiveness with the team kind of coming together here in a completely different product that the organization was putting out on the court as opposed to opening night.
That's right. And I think it's clear to see to a lot of people. And some of that is growth and maturity from the rookies that really contribute. Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado, some of those guys, and Trey Murphy as well, that have been there. But the other part of it is obviously CJ and kind of getting healthy in a lot of different ways. But still, I think, one of the things that some people have touched on that maybe we're forgetting is that if you think about the Pelicans' best player, right, has not played a game all season.
That's true.
And but everyone who's saying that, oh, well, the Pelicans are not good, and all these other different things, and like, oh, well, if the Pelicans win, it's only because Booker, the Suns' best player, is out. It's like, hey, the Pelicans' best player has been out all year. And it's interesting to see the lines that we draw in the sand a little bit, the boxes that we put teams in the NBA type of media. I think it's awesome because you look across, you look at what the Pelicans have had to do just to get to the postseason. They've had a lot of ups and downs and things like that, like I said, but you had to beat the best coach in NBA history, arguably, in Greg Popovich. Tim and Phil are really the only people in those conversations. You had to beat Steve Ballmer's LA Clippers, right, with Paul George and Reggie Jackson and all these other different people. You had to beat two of really the best players in our game right now in Anthony Davis and LeBron James in a playing game. So let's not act like the Pelicans are just some like, oh, well, they just kind of fell into this eighth seed. It's like they had to work very hard and absolutely ball out to get to where they're at. So and that's why I said, this sleeping giant, everyone's counting them out. And even some of the Pelicans and media people, Andrew Lopez, who covers the team for ESPN, picked the Suns in 5 games, right? And he covers the Pelicans. And so I think everybody is astounded by this, but the true Pelicans fans and people that really cover the team have seen like, hey, man, we are here and we're not going away anytime soon.
So it sounds like it's pretty fair to say here that we're not necessarily crying a river for the Phoenix Suns, as well as some of the other teams that have faced injury issues outside of New Orleans.
Right, and injury history and injury issues have always been a huge thing in the NBA. Right, injuries are one of the worst things, and I hope Devin Booker gets well and recovers well. And that's, please don't misunderstand me saying that. Like, he's a great player. He's awesome to watch on the court, but at the same time, injuries are unfortunately a part of this game, and it's tough to see. But when your opponent does have a huge, significant injury, it's not your time to lay back and say, "Oh well, we need to take it easy on them." It's like, no, it's the time to really go in for the kill and make a statement to the league saying that New Orleans Pelicans basketball is here. So.
Yeah, and you know what? We'll start taking a look at game number 5 in a second here, but let's just take a step back here and take a look at game number 4. I mean, this was not a close game. I mean, they kicked the living shit out of the Suns for a majority of the game here. I mean, there was a couple of different sports was like, all right, you know what? Here it is. The Suns are going to take over the game, and that it never took place that way here. So, given that the team is kind of coming together, and you seem very optimistic here, and where you don't think this is the end, and we're not necessarily taking a victory lap after kind of the game of before, you think there's more of this to come as we get into game 5, 6, and potentially 7 and beyond.
Yeah, I think that game 4 was very, very good from the Pelicans' perspective from start to finish. The last game in game 3, if you remember, Jackson Hayes kind of let his emotions get the best of him, and it's happened. He's a very emotional player, and he got thrown out on kind of a cheap shot on like Jay Crowder, and the momentum was off. Were off, and some of those other different things, and so
bonehead play. But I mean,
and
that's in the past. We're going a little step back here, but for the most part, we're a small step back, but we're looking forward now.
Right, and so I think if you look at this game, at the most recent game in game 4, there was a clear objective. It was to stop Chris Paul and make somebody else beat you, right? And if you look at the stat sheet, he's going to have his assists because he's one of the best, passing point guards pretty much of all time. But if you look at his numbers, I mean, he only had 4 points in the game. And I think that was huge. I think that the Pelicans really did. Jose Alvarado, Herb Jones really did a great job in stopping his momentum and stopping and aggravating him and frustrating him in a lot of different ways.
Interesting. Well, I mean, let's start kind of jumping into it. Actually, one more thing before we go ahead and do that here. So, is it fair to say? I mean, I guess you're 35 to 45 minutes outside of New Orleans.
Yeah, about that far.
What's the buzz? I mean, are people buying in, or are people still a little trepidatious? Like, what's besides from you? Like, what's going on community wise?
I think one of the big things that has happened recently with the Pelicans as a whole is there's this thing that has been created by the fans and has, I'm in the Twitter community now with them. It's called the Pels 12. And if you remember a couple of years ago, JJ Redick was on the team and got traded from New Orleans to Dallas. And he made some comments about how on his podcast, and people were going with him back and forth on Twitter. So one of the tweets that he said was in regards to Pelicans fans. He said, yeah, all 12 of you. So there are only 12 Pelicans fans or something like that. And as a city, we've really adopted that moniker. And so what we've called ourselves is the Pels 12, right? And it's this representation of like, people are always going to count New Orleans out. after Hurricane Katrina, after, all the many things that this city has gone through and that city has gone through, it's tough. It's really, really difficult to see everyone in the media just dog on this small market team, right? And it's not without merit. It's happened before. Do you remember how everyone said that Giannis was an absolute idiot for signing in Milwaukee? And the very next year, he won an NBA championship. It's just part of media. It's part of the New York, part of the LA kind of vibe to hate on small markets because they want big
Why are you
stars in
throwing
big
me into the
markets.
mix here? I mean, I didn't do anything to you guys here. I like New Orleans.
It's awesome, man. But the vibe is absolutely awesome. It's clear to see on road games like at Phoenix, in Game 5, we'll all be probably at the Rusty Nail. It's a bar here in town. We'll all just watch the game together. The only thing on all the TVs in there is the New Orleans Pelicans game, and we're drinking, having a good time. It's really, really awesome.
All right, cool. You ready to make some picks here?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go ahead and kind of jump at this here. So if you're actually just checking this out for the first time here, I can't stress this enough here, guys. It's just a game. We're playing a game. It's got a little bit of a different twist on fantasy sports. For this specific game, we're taking a look at game number 5, which takes place tomorrow night between the New Orleans Pelicans as well as the Phoenix Suns. So the objective is fairly simple, straightforward. We got a list of props, or hence the company name, statements that are on the left-hand side of the screen. It's your job to scroll through this list and pick 10 of them. As you make your 10 picks, you want to rank them in order of confidence from 10 through 1. If throughout the course of the game, if your number 10 pick becomes correct, you get 10 points. If 9 through 1 are incorrect, well, now you just have a total of 10 points. The individual with the most points at the end of this specific sporting event wins. Today, we are playing on StatementGames.com. In the future, we could be showcasing some of the other partners that are operating the Statement Games, platform. Like I had said here, it's free to play. You are going to have to listen to the duration of this episode. And let's just say if you go 10 for 10 with your selections, even though that this is a free to play game, I might be coming to the table with a very, very special prize. And it is going to be a little bit more skewed to people living within the New Orleans area, or maybe somebody who is a Phoenix Suns fan who's willing to travel to New Orleans. Because, as JP just mentioned, let's be honest, there's only 12 Pelicans fans, and they all live within the Rusty Nail area. So, but anyway, we'll listen to the end of the episode, and we'll go from there. So, you know what? I don't want to put any pressure on you or any additional pressure on you. But as we started this new format at the start of the 2022 NBA playoffs, the guests that I brought onto the program currently sit 5 and 6. Of the 6 picks that they've made, 5 of them have been correct. 1 of them has been incorrect. I started off hot. I've completely sucked the last episode, 0 for 3 with my picks. So I'm looking forward to redeeming myself a little bit here, but overall I am 2 for 6 with my picks. Okay. So the onus is on you to continue the trend of the guests kicking the crap out of the host, and I need to make a little bit of a comeback here. So right. Because I went 0 for 3, usually the way the program works here is I start off making my first 2 picks first, but in this episode here, I'm going to throw it over to you. I'm going to give you the choice. Do you want me to pick first, or do you want to pick first? And keep in mind, this is the way that we're working here. Although I might have differing opinions about the game than you, for this card here, we're playing as a team.
Okay.
So, for example, if I take, if you take the Pelicans over 120 points. I'm not going to take Pelicans under 120 because that obviously is going to start to cause a little bit of a conflict with the card here. So with that in mind, I'll throw it over to you. You want to go first, or you want me to go?
I'll go first.
Go for it.
I like it. So the first pick that I have is going to seem kind of surprising, but it's a Suns pick. So the first Suns pick that I have is Suns over 17.5 free throws made.
All right, so you're staying in the let's see here, team category.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the Suns over 17 and a half. You said over, or you said over, right?
Over, yeah.
Okay.
Last game in game 4, there's a large discrepancy if you look at the box number or the box scores.
15, right?
Yeah.
You're actually stealing one of my picks already. So,
Well, what can I say?
yeah, made 10, only went to the line 15 times.
Yeah,
Is that what you're looking at?
The Pelicans really kind of got to the line a lot because they were driving to the rim more than the Suns were. The Suns are kind of playing outside in with Ayton. However, this is what I'll say is that Monty Williams, his post game press conference, he made sure to circle that and say, 42-17 or 15 or however much it was is just ridiculous. And usually when coaches make statements like that and you've got a veteran legend like CP3, usually something happens in the next game. So I kind of feel pretty confident about that.
That's good. You want to lock that in at 10, or is there a different number slot that you want to slide this thing down to?
Let's go with 8. That's a good number.
All right, so we are going to jot this down to number 8. I'm actually going to stick kind of on the same kind of category. I mean, 42 kind of times in the last game here. I think as you start getting more towards game 5, game 6, game 7, there is obviously just much more physicality to kind of these games, and it's just the nature of the beast with the NBA kind of playoffs here. I understand that 42 is a big ask. Yep. But from a Pelicans kind of perspective, I'm only kind of asking for 16.5 or 16 and a half. And I actually just think it's one of those things here, and where given some of like the friction that's taking place within these two teams here, I don't think the refs are going to want this game to get away from them. So I do kind of see this as a highly contested, closely scrutinized, called game. I will go ahead and lock in the Pelicans over 16 and a half free throws. I'm just going to, I'm going to drop that down to the number 5 slot.
Okay. I like it.
I'll throw it back over to you.
So this is kind of a tough one, but I think I'm going to stay with the team, and I think that what I'm going to have is the New Orleans Pelicans player getting a double-double.
All right, so you're jumping into the convoy category.
Yep.
And anybody, the big guys actually pretty well, so you just need kind of one.
Yeah, I'm kind of, Jonas Valanciunas is I think he ended up after the season was 3rd overall in double-doubles behind Nikola Jokic and somebody else I can't remember. But
yeah,
that's what he does. He scores points and he gets rebounds. And what Willie Green has done is switched his minutes with Larry Nance Jr. a little bit, and so he's oftentimes playing. With or against, I should say, JaVale McGee, and that really helps his numbers defensively from rebounds and offensively. So,
sounds good. Leave it at 10, or you got a different spot that you're looking at?
I'm looking at 10. I feel pretty good about this.
You know what? This is getting a little scary because we are kind of like thinking, along the same lines here for the next pick here. I mean, and you actually stole, well, you didn't steal my thunder. I think we're just kind of thinking a lot here. I'm taking the big guy over 10.5 rebounds.
Hey, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all.
And I am just gonna, let's gamble a little bit here. I'm gonna leave that in at 8.
Okay, I like it. The next one for me is Brandon Ingram has 3 consecutive games of scoring more than 30 points, or 30 or more points, I should say, and he's the first New Orleans player to do that in a playoff setting, to have 3 consecutive 30-point games. The coaching staff is determined to get him the ball in his spot so that he can score. And I think that this team goes as far as Brandon Ingram carries this team. And
he's playing well.
Because of that, I think 25.5 points over, I think is something that I feel pretty confident in too.
All right. 7 or different spot?
7's good.
Okay. All I'm gonna, I mean, look, I mean, I know the number is kind of like, pretty high here, but I think it's one of those situations in where I'm expecting a big response and a big effort from this individual. I mean, even though I thought New Orleans had complete control of that game here, I mean, some of these passes and some of the plays that Chris Paul is kind of like making are still kind of like impressive here. I know it's kind of like high, so I'm going to be sliding this down to the number 2 pick, but I'm going to take Chris Paul over 11.5 assists.
Okay.
And that would kind of do it, which actually means that there's 4 kind of picks remaining. Usually what we kind of like to do is that you and I will take these picks kind of off line, just to kind of give the card like a little bit of a competitive advantage. So in this card right here, my username on the Statement Games platform is Founder. So if you see Founder in any of the contests here, just understand that it's me, and I believe in contest number 1. It's a combination of me kind of and JP. So that is a wrap on making picks. But before we go, I actually have it scrolling on the bottom as well. I mean, JP, you got some stuff going on with the LA Peach Basket, and as well as Jose. You got some cool stuff that's taking place on Twitter, handle being Pels Press. Any other things that you want to kind of throw out there in terms of how people can find you, where you can actually see people interacting? I know that you're running kind of a great kind of podcast yourself. Mm-hmm. Anything else that people should be aware of with regards to you, the content that you're putting out, and how you're interacting with the basketball community?
Yeah, man. So, I grew up around basketball. Just part of me. I'm 6'5". I played basketball all my life, AAU ball. My dad was a D1 coach. So, I mean, I've got it honest for sure. And I treat my page and I treat my people like I would want to be treated as a fan. I interact. We go back and forth with one each other if we have differing opinions. Just part of it, man. It's so much fun to do. But my Twitter, whether you're a Pelicans fan or not, is a lot of fun. And if you like me, you like my style, I will be more than happy to tell you why your takes are wrong.
Not bad. Just real quick, is your dad still coaching?
No, he stepped down. I've got some young siblings who he had to take care of and spend less time on the road.
Nice, not bad here. And then just because we're a bunch of selfish individuals over at Statement Games, is there any words of wisdom or maybe a testimonial in terms of what you like and don't like? I know that, and I really appreciate it. You've had some time just to push some of the buttons on the Statement Games platform. Anything that you like, or anything that you can give us that we could selfishly use as a testimonial?
Yeah, I really like, I got into this just a little bit late because I was having some issues, but it really helped me with that not too long ago. I really like it because it is so much more about, there's nothing you lose. If you bet and you gamble and stuff like that, there's definitely a huge, you could lose, and we all know like kind of the horror stories of that. But with this, it's a lot simpler. It's just it feels more fun. I know at times if you make bets and stuff like that on games, you can be like sitting there, your team could be up 20 points and you're like, I got to hit the spread. Or whatever it is. So you can be so worried about that even if your team wins by 20, you can be like, oh, dang. But here it's kind of like you're not really losing that. You're still able to enjoy your favorite team's games and still at the end of the day be like, oh, well, I guess it didn't really lose anything. Just kind of more for fun. And if I do really well, you really benefit from that too.
Hey, well, that's a wrap. I really appreciate your time. I didn't think I was actually going to get into the series here, but now I'm actually really compelled and interested to see kind of what takes place in games 5, 6, and 7 here. You got to understand, I'm a Knicks fan, so it's not like I have anything kind of going for me. So I'll live myself vicariously through. Hey, maybe you can make it 13. I'll be the 13th kind of Pelicans fan for a short period of time.
I like it.
Until they either win the whole thing or get knocked out here. But start of the 22-23 season here, I'm back to my Knicks.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. I'll catch up with you soon. All right, everybody. So if you actually had fun watching that episode of Making Picks, I got a special kind of challenge for everybody here. Congratulations for watching all the way to the end. And now, if you're willing to take one step further, very kind of special prize. Here's the deal. If you're willing to subscribe to the Statement Games YouTube channel or follow us on Rumble and drop a comment in the comment section below. In that comment, let us know what your Statement Games username is, what your number 10 pick is for game number 5, Pelicans versus Suns. And if you go 10 for 10 with your picks, I'm coming to the table. 2 free tickets in New Orleans, game number 6. Can't get any better than that. Good luck, everybody. Chat soon.